Hello everyone, this is Cryos again with another tutorial for Planetary Interaction. Today we're going to be covering a single planet going P0 to P2. Just a nice, easy, passive way to get a planet up and running, set it for multiple days, let it do its thing, and come back and collect some ISK in a week or so. So to start with, you need to know what you want to make. In this case, for P2, our goal is to make some coolant. Now, coolant requires electrolytes and water, which then obviously require aqueous liquids to make the water, and ionic solutions to make the electrolytes. So I've kind of already picked the planet that I want to do that on, and in this case, in this system, it's going to be a gas planet. And we'll take a little scan here to get an idea. Okay, so the ideal thing is to try and kind of find a spot where some densities of both exist, because we don't really want to be moving your base around all that often, ideally never. So in this case we're going to need an aqueous liquid, so that looks like a pretty good chunk right there. And ionic solutions, well, that's kind of convenient. So probably look at building a base somewhere kind of in between those two. So our first step, as ever, get into your industrial ship so that you can, in this case, put a gas command center in it. And we'll undock. So now that we're in a ship with a command center in our hold, we can go to that planet again. And first step is to drop a command center. It doesn't really matter where you drop it. But what does matter is upgrading it. So this character has max skills on all the PI stuff, which is ultimately your goal. It makes it a lot easier to do some more advanced setups. So here's the obligatory get good scrub and get to level 5. There. So in this case, we're going to start off aqueous liquids, ionic solutions, kind of nice and close there. So we'll just build something in between. So there's many different ways of doing this. This way is going to be just a nice, easy, straightforward, low maintenance, set up and forget for multiple days type of thing. So what we're going to start off with here is 2 basics, because you pretty much need a 2-to-1 ratio basically, because each P1 you need 2 P1s to feed the advanced industry facility. So we're just going to start off basic. We're going to do this system twice here. create the links to go between them. So up on the top side, this is where we're going to produce the water. Down here is the electrolytes. And then these two advanced are both going to produce the coolant. So then the next step, in this case, we're going to build a couple of storage centers. Just because with these you can get your setup going, leave it for extended periods of time, and it'll just fill those storage centers up. So the next step is to make, we're going to need 2 extractor heads. Now these ones, the extractor heads are what is going to be considered the mobile part of this base. So once you set, we're just going to set one up here nice and easy because we pretty much tailored the base to be right next to the stuff that we're going to be digging up. Okay, so down here, we are going to do some ionic solutions. And with this setup at level 5, we can pretty much support, I believe it's 6 heads per. And this is totally up to you wherever you want to have this set at. I'm just going to set it at a nice easy 4-day. So we'll take a little note here that average per hour, we're getting 17,000. That's going to be more than enough to cover what we need, which is why we're going with the storage center so that it can fill up with the P1 or P0 materials here. And as time goes on, odds are you're not going to be getting, that high amount. Just because your extractor heads aren't ever always going to be in range of really dense stuff. So essentially, let me just get this done here and routed. So we are going to route all this P0 from this head to this storage center. Because if we look at the requirements for water, it needs 3,000 aqueous liquids. And in this case, it's going to be times 2. And that is on a 30-minute cycle. So essentially, you need 12,000, at least 12,000 an hour to keep this thing fed. And we have that covered. Up here, we're going to do the same for water, aqueous liquids. That's nice and close there. In this case, we're getting pretty close to 16,000. So that's relatively even between the two. What you could do is if you found that, say, you're only getting 10,000 here, but you're getting 19,000 in this bottom one, drop one of the extractors down here, put it down to 5, and then put this one up to 7 to try and keep her balanced. Play it by ear for each setup. And we're going to route this into the storage center. Okay, so now we got that stuff getting all dug up, and it's going to be ready to go. So we'll get, like I said, on the top here, we're going to be producing water. So we click on the basic industry facility, double click on water, and double click on this storage center up here to route it. Do the same thing for this one, water, and route it. Down here we are doing electrolytes. Double click on it, route it down here. This one, electrolytes, route it down there. Now with this setup, we've told it that's what it's producing, but we have to supply it with the raw materials, which will be going to this storage center up here. So right now there's nothing in storage. Well, we just set it up obviously, but if you go over here to routes, it will show what is incoming. So you can basically click on the incoming material that will be there. It's not there yet, but it will be. So you can click on that, create a route, and send it down here. Do the same, create a route, send it down here. Now you saw those nice little expanding circles indicating that that unit is now happy. Down here we've got the ionic solutions. Create a route here. Create a route there. Okay, so we are now going to be officially pumping out P1 material, but we are going to go to P2, which are these advanced facilities here. So they're both going to be doing coolant. So it makes this a little easier. So we're going to tell it to do coolant, and we're going to route this down to the launch pad, because that's how we're going to launch it into orbit when we come back in 4 days or whatever. Now same thing, we've told it that's going to be producing coolant, but we have to supply it with the raw materials. And again, there's nothing in storage yet, but if you go to routes, we see that there is water is going to be coming in. And we're going to tell it to, once it shows up there, create a route here. And we'll do it again to this one down here. In this bottom one here, same thing, electrolytes, create a route up to this one. Now you notice that we supplied it with the 2 ingredients, and it is now happy. Do the same here, and it is now happy, and submit. So this is one way of many that this can be done. Excuse me. So basically, to recap, we have 2 extractor heads. This one is extracting aqueous liquids. This one is extracting ionic solutions. This head is delivering to this storage center. This head to this one. These 2 basic are producing water. These 2 are producing the ionic solutions. And we have routes set up from the storage center to each of these 4 to give them the raw materials to refine into P1. Then we have these 2 advanced, which operate the exact same way as the basic, except we supply them with water and electrolytes. And that produces coolant, which is then shipped over to the launch pad. So that is basically a pretty straightforward setup. Come back in 4 or 5 days, pick up some ISK, and yeah, pretty straightforward. So If you have any questions, feel free to contact me in-game, Cryos Borogamos, member of House of Tyrell in Fountain. And thank you for tuning in, and I hope you found this tutorial useful.